I never thought a single night could change the way I see my entire life. For years, I believed I had built a stable foundation, good job, loyal friends, and a girlfriend who, I thought, was my safe place in a chaotic world. But reality has a way of ripping the curtain down when you least expect it. It all started one Thursday evening. I came home later than usual after a rough day at work. My boss had been breathing down my neck, deadlines were piling up, and all I wanted was some quiet. As I opened the door, I immediately noticed something strange. A pair of sneakers near the entrance. Not mine, not hers. My stomach sank, but I brushed it off. Maybe her brother dropped by, I told myself. Maybe I was just being paranoid. I called out her name, but no one answered. The apartment felt off. Quiet, but not the good kind of quiet. I walked down the hall, and as I approached the bedroom, I heard whispers. My hand froze on the doorknob. I couldn't catch the words, but I knew her voice, and a man's voice. For a second, I couldn't move. My mind screamed at me to storm in, but my body wouldn't listen. Instead, I stood there like a coward, listening to muffled laughter from the woman I thought loved me. Every second stretched like an eternity. Finally, I pushed the door open, and what I saw made my blood boil, and my heart collapse at the same time. She jumped out of bed, eyes wide, her face draining of color the moment she saw me. The guy beside her scrambled to cover himself, muttering something I couldn't even process. My ears rang, my vision blurred, but the one thing I remember crystal clear was her mouth opening like she was about to explain. "Wait, please, it's not what you think," she stammered, her voice trembling. "Not what I think." My girlfriend, the person I trusted most, stood half naked with another man in our bed, and she wanted me to believe there was some other explanation. My hands shook, not from anger, but from this crushing weight of betrayal pressing down on me. The guy grabbed his stuff and bolted, avoiding eye contact like the coward he was. I was left staring at her, my whole world crashing down, while she reached for me, as if her touch could erase what I'd just seen. Tears welled in her eyes, but I felt nothing, just emptiness. The silence between us was heavier than any scream. Finally, I asked one question, my voice barely more than a whisper: "How long?" And her answer shattered me more than the sight itself. I kept telling myself that love was stronger than betrayal, that maybe I was imagining things, but deep down I knew the truth. Lysa's late nights, the way she guarded her phone, the absence in her eyes when she looked at me, it all added up. I started to collect small pieces of evidence, like a detective in my own house. A forgotten receipt from a restaurant I'd never been to, perfume on her jacket that wasn't hers, and the name, Daniel, appearing too many times in her messages. I remember the exact night it all broke apart. She told me she was going to meet a friend after work, but something in her voice cracked when she said it. My chest burned with suspicion, and I decided to follow her. I parked a few blocks away from the restaurant and waited. Minutes felt like hours, but then I saw her, dressed up, smiling, looking more alive than she had in months. And then he appeared, a man taller than me, confident, sliding his arm around her waist like he had the right to. My world collapsed in that instant. I didn't confront her right there. Instead, I drove home in silence, gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Rage, sadness, humiliation, they all mixed together until I could barely breathe. When she walked in later that night, pretending everything was fine, I just stared at her. I asked one question: "Who is he?" She froze, her face draining of color, and for the first time in years, I saw fear in her eyes. But instead of confessing, she tried to lie again. That was the last straw. My voice shook, but it was steady enough to make her realize I knew. I told her I saw everything. She didn't even deny it this time. She just sat down, buried her face in her hands, and whispered, "I'm sorry." Sorry. As if that word could rebuild the ruins of my trust. As if it could erase the image of her with him. My heart wanted to believe her, but my mind was screaming that love without loyalty is nothing but a slow poison. That night, I made a decision that changed everything. I didn't sleep at all. I sat in the living room, staring at the wall, while Lisa cried quietly in the bedroom. My thoughts spun in endless circles. Memories of our laughter, our first trip together, the nights we stayed up dreaming about the future. How could it all be reduced to this? One lie, one betrayal, and suddenly every promise felt meaningless. In the morning, she tried to talk. Her voice was shaky, her eyes swollen from tears. She said it was a mistake, that she never meant to hurt me, that it was just a moment of weakness. But weakness doesn't last for months. Weakness doesn't look like secret dinners and smiles reserved for someone else. I wanted to yell, to throw something, but instead, I stayed calm. My silence scared her more than anger ever could. I told her I needed answers. Why him? Why now? She admitted she felt like I wasn't there for her, that she was lonely, that Daniel made her feel seen. Those words cut deeper than the betrayal itself. I thought I was doing everything right, working hard, building a life for us, but in her eyes, I was just absent. I realized then that love isn't destroyed in a single moment. It crumbles slowly, piece by piece, until one final blow makes it collapse. And that's exactly what happened to us. Still, I couldn't just let it go. I needed closure, not just apologies. I told her to pack a bag and stay at her sister's for a while. Her face twisted in shock. She thought I'd forgive her that easily. But this time, I had to think about myself, about whether I could ever trust her again. As she left, dragging her suitcase across the floor, I felt both relief and unbearable emptiness. The house was quiet, too quiet, and for the first time in years, I was truly alone. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end of our story. Not yet. Days passed, but the silence in the house became heavier with each one. I thought I'd feel free without her presence, but instead, it felt like living in ruins after a storm, everything familiar, but broken, empty, stripped of warmth. I checked my phone constantly, half hoping for a message from her, half dreading it. When Lisa finally called, her voice trembled. She begged me to meet her, to talk one last time face to face. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Maybe part of me still wanted to believe there was something worth saving. We met at a small cafe we used to love. The moment I saw her, I could tell she hadn't been sleeping, dark circles under her eyes, hands shaking as she held her coffee. She started crying almost immediately, telling me how sorry she was, how empty she felt without me. She swore Daniel meant nothing compared to what we had. For a moment, my heart softened. The love we shared didn't just vanish overnight. But then, as she reached across the table for my hand, I pulled back. I realized something important. Trust, once shattered, doesn't return with tears or promises. I told her I needed time, real time, not a few days of regret. I wasn't ready to forgive. Maybe I never would be. Her eyes searched mine desperately, as if trying to find the man who used to look at her with love. But all she found was someone who had been broken, and wasn't sure if he wanted to be put back together. As I walked away, leaving her in that cafe, I understood the hardest truth. Sometimes love isn't enough to fix what's been destroyed. Sometimes the bravest choice is letting go, even when every part of you still aches for what once was.